is going to be focusing his comments on the process by which you set up a patient safety program. So he brings insight not only from his experience in the UK, but most recently for an extended period of time in working in this particular region, and more specifically in Saudi Arabia.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and good morning. Thank you for your kind words, Dr. Hoffman. Can you all hear me at the back? Good. Well, normally, about this time is when I order my second cup of coffee, but I hope you're all awake, and I've got 20 minutes today to talk to you about setting up a patient safety program in the Middle East. But before I do that, I'd like to give my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Khalid Shokri and the Kuwait Medical Association for inviting me and being such excellent hosts during my stay here today. So, 20 minutes, and what I hope to do is not only evoke some themes for discussion later on, but to make this presentation relevant and interesting for all of you, the attendees who are working within the Kuwaiti Health Organization. So, what I won't be able to do is share lessons that I've learned for the last 20 years working in healthcare as a junior doctor, when we were noticing incorrectly implemented protocols, for example, in diabetic units that were causing morbidity and high rates of mortality. And more recently, when I retrained as a lawyer, and I was then defending many doctors and constantly thinking, oh goodness, they're coming to me with the same type of issues, the same type of problems. Is no one paying attention to the underlying system issues that these doctors are working in? Is no one actually using their experiences to learn and improve upon the system? No, what I hope to do today, as Dr. Hoffman said, is share with you my experiences from the last 3 years working 300 kilometers south of here in Saudi Arabia. Share with you the experiences that when I first arrived, I was simply going to spend 6 months to a year researching the thesis of my PhD. But what I did was I found such a wealth of passion with regards to quality improvement and patient safety that had not been tapped or encouraged before. I decided to stay a little bit longer. I've been there 3 years, and that is going to form the heart of my presentation to you today. So, the first word that comes to mind whenever I visit different hospitals within Saudi Arabia, and I'm going to share experiences with you from observations of up to 30 hospitals that I've visited, the first word that comes to mind is I'm frustrated. At whatever level, when you talk to healthcare workers, and I mingled with some of you yesterday, and I'm happy to see there are so many people from different levels of healthcare organizations here listening to the 2 days worth of presentations. The common theme, the common word that is coming to mind constantly is you're frustrated. You feel that the system is letting you down, you feel that whatever efforts you're trying to implement aren't being rewarded, and constantly you're saying to me that whatever projects are involved in, whatever programs are involved in, that after a while people are losing interest because there's no positive outcomes. So what lies at the heart of any patient safety program in the Middle East or throughout the world? It's to first and foremost accept that there is a problem. We've heard yesterday there have been many landmark studies that have described the rate of harm that is occurring. It's important though that yes, harm does occur, but over 50% of the harm that occurs can be preventable. And that's an issue that I come across quite often, that there is often resistance to the implementation of a patient safety program because there is not an acceptance of the problem, because people reply and they say, well, patients will have harm. That's what hospitals are there for. Patients are ill. No, that's not true. We have to accept that harm is reversible, and that these studies are showing that at least 1 in 10 to 1 in 16 patients who are being admitted to our healthcare organizations are undergoing an episode of harm. Once we accepted that there is a problem, then together we have to decide on how we are going to make healthcare provision safe. So, today I'm going to give you a taste of the ethnographic research that I've been involved in examining threats to patient safety. And I'm going to touch on, well, what I wanted to do today was give you a take-home message. I know you're going to be sitting through 20 lectures today. My take-home message is there that the strengths of a patient safety program rely on communications founded on mutual trust. Communications at all levels, communication between executive, communication between frontline workers. Communication has to be clear at the very highest level on who we are, what we want to do, and how we're going to do it. And when you dissipate that through to the front line, even now I'm witnessing, for example, only last week when I was on one of the inpatient units, the doctors came out of one of the patient's rooms speaking in Arabic. They handed over to a set of nurses who started speaking in Afrikaans, who then handed over to a group of nurses who were speaking in Tagalog. And the message had been completely changed regarding what the patient management was to be. And this underlines a crucial aspect of the care that we're delivering, because the challenge is that, yes, communication is of the utmost importance, but our challenge is that we have to have a shared perception of what constitutes safe practice. What does that mean? In the last 3 years, I've come across over 30 nationalities working in the healthcare system in Saudi Arabia. 30 nationalities, 30 sets of people with different education, training, experiences. English is not their first language, working together in high-intensity, complex arenas directed towards patient care. Whatever words you use to describe that, that is complex at its highest description. So, how can we learn from various institutions regarding setting up a patient safety program? So, the image I want you to have in your minds when you leave today is this, because my experiences for the last 3 years have shown that this frustration, if you look at the root cause of this frustration, it leads through to this table. The table where the leadership sit, where the decisions are arrived at. So, who should we start with? Let's start with the CEO or the hospital director. What are his strengths? Looking at the hospitals with good patient safety programs, is that being precedes doing. What does that mean? It means that we can use different analogies, like the captain of a rugby team or the general of an army. The principle is the same, that this man is the one who's leading everyone. He is the one that must evoke trust. He must be the one who captures your passion. If, for example, you're one of the 85% of the healthcare workers that have traveled from your home country to work in a foreign country, then this is the man that you will look to and say, I've come all this way. I've left my family to work for this man. What is he saying? Do I trust him? Is his vision clear? It's not just that. In successful hospitals with good patient safety programs, it is up to all of us to encourage this CEO to go to the front line. Many small-scale studies have been done on executive walk rounds. These are showing that when you take the CEO out of the boardroom to the front line, where he's visiting the inpatient areas, where he's talking to the frontline staff, where he's going in the patient's room, patient safety improves because your leader is interested and he's willing to become involved. That's the key to any patient safety program. Whatever you're doing as an individual in your inpatient areas, your departments, your units, whatever worthwhile studies you're doing, projects you're involved in, if he doesn't know about it, he's not involved, you're doomed to failure. And that's why, as a surveyor, when I go into a hospital and I visit them, what I want to do is I want to look at their minutes. I want to see that somewhere, every week or every month, patient safety has been on the agenda. I won't embarrass anyone in the audience today to see how many CEOs are present, but that's also a key, to get CEOs to attend these type of lectures, to get them involved, to get them up to date with what is happening in the healthcare environment. Those are the strengths. What are the challenges that CEOs face? Having spoken to many CEOs, and those who have been able to speak to me and not spend all their time on their Blackberries, this is a key challenge, that they're lacking enlightenment or the ability to be wise. They're getting too caught up in the mundane, everyday emailing or meetings or paperwork. We need to get our CEOs involved. We need to free up their time to visit the inpatient areas, to really be active in patient safety. Yes, I know they're busy, but these are healthcare institutions we're talking about, and what we want is our CEOs to be involved and the ability to approach them with our concerns. So who's joining the CEO on this table? It's our medical directors. And the background, obviously, of most medical directors I've come across are inherently from Saudi Arabia. They're experienced doctors. But what I've seen is those hospitals doing well compared to those hospitals that face challenges, that the medical directors must have a hand in planning, producing, and implementing job descriptions, bylaws, policies and procedures, or using another term, have standard operating practice, so when you have these doctors coming from different countries, they come and work in a standardized manner. There have been many underlying issues that when I visit hospitals, I say, have you got policies and procedures? Yes, but are they up to date? Whose responsibility is it? I would say to you today that it is the responsibility of the medical director to ensure that all his services have up-to-date policies and procedures. They're based on the best available evidence there is to ensure that the quality of care is highest delivered to their patients and ensure patient safety. The challenges facing our medical directors are establishing a blend of mission and margin. I'm still surprised when I visit hospitals and I see beautiful new buildings and wings open that have been left empty for years. Yes, medical directors are passionate, and yes, we want to provide all the services possible, but we have to understand that yes, we are faced with many challenges currently, and we do have financial constraints, and therefore, in this boardroom, communicating with his other colleagues, he must be realistic. He must plan what services they would like to offer, but have they got the budget to fund these services? There's no point in running a cardiology service and spending millions and millions of dollars on new equipment when you haven't got the appropriately qualified or trained personnel to run that service. So that's two people who lie at the heart of setting up any patient safety program. The next person to join them, got it as your nursing director, and most of these in Saudi Arabia are from overseas. They have a wide range of qualifications. And really, the nursing services in large-scale hospitals come second to the number of admin staff, or in some hospitals, they top the highest number of employees that organisation will have. And therefore, our nursing directors are facing an enormous challenge. They're looking after many, many employees. There are many tiers of management that often stifle the communication getting up to them. They have to become embroiled in competencies and ensure that when they do get a group of nurses from a country that they're up to standard. Most importantly, they have to recognise the value of their nursing staff. They have to understand they're under a lot of pressure coming to a different country where, again, English is the second language to many of them. And often they're not supported. The key here is that it's the nursing staff who are spending the majority of time with the patients. It's those nursing staff that are able to provide information and data to the other members of the healthcare workers. Unfortunately, what we are seeing now is, yes, recognising the value of staff members is an absolute positive, and when correctly implemented, those organisations are very successful. But they also have to keep an eye on the future. There's an enormous turnover in many of the Saudi Arabian healthcare organisations with the nursing staff. There are many other adjoining countries that are offering more money and taking those nursing staff away. But what we also have is we have a lot of hospitals undergoing accreditation, as my colleagues have already mentioned today. And within that, new standards, new roles and responsibilities for everyone. But just with the medical director before and the nursing director now, if you're over the age of 30, which, let us face it, 99.9% of the healthcare workers are, If you're over the age of 30, then you'll never have had any education, training, or experience in patient safety. You won't have come across it as a speciality in its own right in medical school or nursing school, and therefore you have a major challenge that you're overwhelmingly implementing new programs without a basic understanding from the majority of your staff on why you're doing it and what it means to them and what the wider impact is. The challenge for a nursing director is to try to retain her staff, to reward her staff, because if the turnover is high, then any improvements or lessons we've learned are lost. They've gone. Number 4 is a title that has, a person has various titles in whatever countries, either the operations director, the facility management and safety director. This director is looking after all the other admin staff, and most importantly, the staff responsible for facility management and safety. Often, when I do go to hospitals to visit them, and they say, yes, doctor, you're talking a lot about patient safety, but what about our safety? What about staff safety? I was quite delighted when I was being brought here by the taxi from the airport. Some of you may have seen that big yellow sign outside saying safety first. Safety is our priority. I was quite happy. I thought, wow, the conference are actually advertising safety is really important. Until I actually realised they were talking about the building site across the road. But why is it that when I go to hospitals, and I visit hospitals, I don't see more of these signs? I don't see safety as our main concern, priority for all patients and staff. I don't see that enough. And the strengths of the operations director, who's looking after utilities and management and medical equipment, as well as various other specialities, is that he has got to now demonstrate an inherent confidence in his workforce. Because let us be clear, with this boom in accreditation, we're looking more and more closely at facility management and safety. But there are no safety workshops, no, or as we call it in the UK, health and safety workshops being conducted in the Kingdom. So somehow this director has got to ensure that he has fused confidence in his workshop. He's there on the front line with them, encouraging them, sending them afoot, training and development. But he's also got to be opportunity-driven and not crisis-driven. He's got to ensure that all his safety programs are in place, so there's no point in just sitting back watching the hospital burn down thinking, really, I should have implemented something, when clearly now is the time. The poster say changing tomorrow. Today is the time to act. Next to the operations director, the heart of our patient safety program, is my most favourite director, the HR director. When I was in Dubai recently, I opened up the newspaper and I read an article saying that an orthopedic doctor had performed 100 operations in an accredited hospital until they looked at his certificates and realised he'd just scammed them from the internet. Clearly here, we have a crucial role of our human resources staff. They have to ensure that we not only get the right person for the right job, but who we get is who they say they are. Now, in the UK currently, still large-scale studies show that applications carry a 25 to 40% fraudulency rate. So there are lies appearing on 25 to 40% of CVs of people applying for healthcare worker posts. In the last year, I have been involved in reviewing the employment records of 3 individuals at very high levels, and when you analyse their CVs and actually check them, you realise the qualifications and their experience were completely false. High-level members of organisations responsible for patient safety. And when we dug further, we realised that morbidity had risen on these units. So it's crucial, absolutely crucial, that we have a robust recruitment process, and the HR director leads this, and everyone is aware of what he stipulates. But then when you arrive, the problem we have that we should learn from everywhere is that we should have a fair disciplinary process that does not differentiate between nationality, that everyone is treated safely, that when we are involved in some episode of, for example, negligence or harm, we are protected and there's a fair process to be followed. You just don't take your passport away and say, off you go. You have to fend for yourself. because then that reflects on poor staff satisfaction and will then impact upon patient safety. 3 more people to go. Training and development director. Often when I say the training and development director should be on the executive board, people say, but why? Well, he's got to ensure that once you have your staff, that you keep them trained, you send them on courses, you pay for them to go on courses, and you keep a list. You record how well trained they are. You record whether they're going for the right life support lectures, and you encourage them. You find courses for them. Because often when you talk to leadership, they say, well, I didn't know there was a course. I didn't get the information. It's up to this director to ensure that everyone gets the education, training, and support they need so they can return, work efficiently, work with clear evidence-based knowledge in their minds to ensure patient safety. His challenge now in this region, the Middle East, is to encourage homegrown talent to not only start studying in healthcare organisation specialities, but to retain them, to develop them, to provide them with training programs, to provide them with good overseas programs, not online programs as soon as they get abroad, but to provide them with good, robust programs abroad in respectable institutions, and then encourage them to return. That's the key. You've got to get them back once you've sent them abroad. The next one, the Quality Management Director, has got to ensure that his staff know that as soon as they set foot on the hospital grounds, they are the patient advocate. They are there for the patient. And he and his staff must develop an intense curiosity about the healthcare arena that they serve. When I witness this in organisations, you witness a good patient safety standard. Unfortunately, with the boom in accreditation, the boom in patient safety programs, with the boom on media attention, even yesterday when I opened up the newspaper that was delivered in the hotel room, another article about patient harm having occurred. In fact, this one talked about the doctor putting a pillow on the patient's face because they were screaming. I didn't really put much in media reports. But what we do have in the kingdom that we should all be aware of, all aboard who are going abroad. What does that mean? Everyone wants to be involved in quality management. Everyone wants to be involved in patient safety. Again, make sure that the people, the department who, want of a better word, are in charge of your program are qualified and trained to do it. Because what I've witnessed is that many people with good intentions and good experience, but if they have no true understanding of quality management and patient safety, they're not going to be able to really provide you with the service that you or your patients deserve. And finally, remember, I'm English, and this is one of those English phrases we love from our finance directors. We want to make sure that his wallet has cobwebs in it. We want to make sure it's closed. He's tight with his money, and he devotes it in the right areas. Because, yes, money is a problem currently worldwide. But what we want to make sure is that he understands that the line between good and evil is very often blurred. And currently we're seeing many projects being developed in the kingdom that are not going through to fruition, and there are many problems with the allocation of resources. So, I'm coming up to my 20 minutes. My take-home message for you today, that whatever patient safety program you're involved in now, if you're involved in setting it up, you have to get this group of people, whatever your leadership board are like, communicating with the same language. What I mean by that is there's 7 people or 8 people with different backgrounds and experience. You've got to get them all speaking the same language. I end with 2 quotes from my hero. We all have heroes. And I had the pleasure of meeting my hero 20 years ago. Sir John Harvey Jones, who was a great industrialist. He actually went to my school and he came back to give one of those talks to inspire us to be better people. And what he said was this. He said, how do you know you've won? When the energy is coming the other way and when your people are visibly growing individually and as a group. And at the end I thought, I really wanted to go and meet him, and I said, sir, do you have any thoughts or any ideas for someone who wants to go into the practice of medicine? And he looked at me and said, dear boy, the problem with healthcare, and his language was quite colourful, as we say, full of managers who've not got a clue what they're doing. There's your challenge. Go and sort it out. On that note, my 20 minutes are up. Thank you very much.
Shelley, thank you so much for those inspiring comments. And again, because of our time constraints, I would invite members of the audience to approach him to gain further insights, particularly given the robust experience that he's had in this region of the world. And I'd like to welcome our final speaker for this session.